Thanks for coming to this session today. My name is Dante. I'm going to be channeling, and channeling is a general term for going into a different state of consciousness to allow for a guide or an entity, some say, to speak through you. And this is something that most people could actually do if they practice, not necessarily going into this sort of a complete channeling state, but at least make contact with spirit guides. There's other terms for this, like mediumship, even spirit possession, and there are varying degrees of experience. Like in a spirit possession, it's something of a more tribal or shamanic nature where the person willfully calls in a specific being in their body, but it's more of like a dance or celebration and can involve other plants or substances. And it's more of a sort of ecstatic experience. There's levels of mediumship in which somebody is completely in trance, where they're not aware of what's happening and they're not aware of what they're saying or even what they're saying sometimes. And this is sort of like a conscious channeling where I'm in a flow and it's kind of happening automatically, but I'm there in the background. It's kind of like I'm going partially into that trance, if that makes sense. And so this might sound very odd, and you might not even believe that that's what's happening, and that's totally fine. But what's really relevant in this session is the information that comes through rather than anything else. The information is something that can leave an impact on you, whether or not you believe it comes from something beyond me. And so I encourage people to have an open mind, and if your mind isn't that open, at least listen to what is shared. So I also was more skeptical of these things at a point, but a lot of things kind of changed in my life quite suddenly, and I was sort of all in the esoteric world at that point. One of the first ways that I was introduced to this idea of channeling was automatic writing, and I had a book on automatic writing, and it was really kind of a simple method of, instead of thinking about what's going to come as you start to write, you just let it flow word by word. And all of a sudden you're writing these passages that sometimes are actually messages from the other side, if that is what you intend. And as I started to dive into Reiki healing, energy healing, if you don't know what that is, it's a touch-based, or some people do it as a non-touch-based modality where you hover your hands above somebody's body or touch the body and allow for this multidimensional healing energy or source energy to flow out through the hands. And it is this kind of hypnotic state, both for the practitioner and for the person receiving it. And during these experiences, I would start to hear voices. And the voice wasn't that different from the voice in my head, but it had an energy to it. It was coming from somewhere beyond, but still manifesting in my head. And as I started to share these messages with people, which I was skeptical of doing at first, they started to have experiences. They would viscerally breathe deeper or have some shift in their body right as I was sharing that message. And with time, I grew more confident in this, and then I realized that, okay, if I'm hearing this voice, maybe I could tune into another kind of voice. Maybe I could ask for someone more specific to come through. And with time doing that, I met the guides that I'm channeling now. And it took some years of practice for me to really learn to trust them and experience bringing them through for other people, to get clear that what I was bringing through was something positive and helpful. And from then it just kind of took off, and I've been doing this work in many places in the world, and I have a channel online where I share this and clients around the world. So it may be something new, but it is a whole nother dimension of the spiritual journey, and there's a community out there actively engaged in this. So if any of this resonates with you, I have this book that is in the library here. It's the guidebook to Living Love on Earth, and you can take a peek through it to see the different messages that have come through. This is about 36 hours of channeled work that went through a long process of being transcribed with a program, and then with me and a group of people who edited the transcripts and compiled it until it became what it is. I didn't realize how long the book would become, but nonetheless it's there, and it's a really amazing resource, and even you can kind of use it like an oracle deck and just kind of think of a question in your mind and flip through the pages until you find the page that suits you, and take a look at where your eyes land on the page and start reading and see if that passage has some reflective insight, as it's intended to be something that you can do that with as well. So in this session, they will share a message, and then the majority of it is going to be up to your questions. And you can ask questions about anything at all, really. And some questions will get a more clear answer than others. But it isn't just a question of, tell me about me. Some people love this question. And, well, they will ask then, what do you want to know about you? You have to be a little bit more specific than that. But they also do, as I learned to do this through energy healing, they do energy scanning as well, and you can ask about things that are happening in your body. You can ask for an energy scan, even in this session, but of course it is something more personal. So that's why I offer the private sessions, and I have astrology sessions as well. So if you resonate with this and you'd like to book something in the next days, you can talk with me after and we can sign up the time. Okay, enough of me talking, and let them introduce themselves. Unless somebody has a question about this channeling. Okay, cool. Hello, and we say fantastic day to each and every one of you, and we thank you for allowing this transmission to take place. It is a great gift and honor for us to be able to meet you in your world, and for our respective realities to link in this way, for as we meet, we reflect to each other greater understandings of all that is, and we learn from you as much as you can learn from us. So, we extend gratitude to you and welcome you. We can be known as the Pleiadian Council. We are a guide that has a connection to many other beings that are a part of a world that exists within this galaxy. We are quasi-physical. This means we are on the threshold between physicality and non-physicality, meaning we exist in many planes and can transfigure our energy to appear in one place and then in another time and space at will. So we reach out to many beings who go through a process like your planet is going through, of evolution and ascension, as some of you call it. Your planet is going through a phase of spiritual awakening. And this awakening is coming to understand your own true nature. As you come to understand this, you actually change the vibration and essence of your being. You start to experience reality in a different way, and you come to understand that you are much more than physical beings alone. You exist in a multidimensional world, and there are many beings that surround you and can interact with you at all times. You come to know this through learning how to shift your focus away from the mind and the senses and into the experience in your heart. And this is the general message we share to all of you. That is, in order to accelerate this process of awakening, you must act upon your highest passion to the best of your ability without insisting on a particular outcome. This is the path of awakening your intuition. Intuition is something that is both emotional and physical. Of all places in your body, intuition is most linked with your heart, as the heart is the center of your being, and within your heart resides your connection to your astral body or your soul body. Here, you are receiving an impulse that is guiding you in the direction of your highest expansion. You experience this impulse as love. You experience it as love because the nature of this reality is unconditional love. There are actually other realities that are built upon something other than unconditional love. But you exist in this reality that is literally made of love, and its essence is love. So, you've said so many times in different ways in your world to follow your heart, and this is the essence of the message that we bring to you, though we bring it to you in perhaps a more mechanical way so that you can come to understand that it is not something vague, it is something literal. And when in every single moment you notice that you have many decisions before you, and now you're in this experience of a retreat where you don't have such as vast options in terms of decisions. And actually this is the best testing ground to start to implement this formula. Because when you have more limited options, you get to understand how powerfully making the simplest of decisions changes your entire frequency. You've been conditioned to think in terms of productivity, maximizing your gain, maximizing your output, maximizing your reach, maximizing your popularity, optimizing your image. But all of this is based on the external and not on the internal. And when you focus first on the internal, you'll find that they're intrinsically linked. Though, without listening first inside, when you focus outside, you will find that your own belief systems and fears will always sabotage your own experience of the results. So by bringing yourself into the heart and looking at the decisions before you, weigh them out. Which one of these decisions activates this sensation of expansion and love in my heart more than any other pathway? And when you choose to act upon that one, you will find that that feeling of love expands in your heart and guides you. If you stayed focused on only this feeling of love, you would enter into a flow state. The flow state ultimately leads to something like this, a channeling state, in which you could connect with whatever you want to connect with, and information and energy will pour out through you without having to think, without having to control, without having to do anything other than let it flow like a river. This is a very useful tool for creativity and even for work, when you can let your heart guide you to your first impulses and simply outpour it. Your whole life becomes orchestrated not by mind but by synchronicity, as this energy of love is organizing and harmonic, and it will continue to create fields of resonance that attract others to this similar frequency of love. You know that love is magnetic because when you see someone glowing and smiling, it awakens that same energy within you. So the second part of this formula is very simple. It means to act upon this excitement, this love, to the best of your ability, to not give up, to not focus so much on the idea of success that you delay or get too frustrated when you don't get what you thought you set out to do. This also is tied to the last part of the formula of releasing insistence on a particular outcome. This means keeping yourself open to whatever happens, celebrating every experience, knowing that failure is a definition. It is not something definitive. Everything you experience is either a lesson or a blessing. And if you're not getting a blessing, there's something for you to learn in that experience that will help you to step forward in a more understanding way so that you can get closer to fulfilling your intention the next time. But if you insist on an outcome, you narrow your focus so much that you don't see in the periphery all of the details that would inform you to as what the lesson is that you really needed to learn from that experience. This formula is something we share first of all with all of you, because if you do this and this alone, your entire lives will change. To experience a spiritual awakening, it means that you break out of the conditioned ways that you have been taught you have to live your life, and let go of the conditioned ways of thinking that tell you you have to value this and that, but instead trust and remember that spirit exists within you. Spiritual awakening is also totally different from what they tell you to do in a religious setting. In your world religions, for the most part, because there is some exception, you are taught that there is an external figure of God that you must bow down to and even submit yourself to, and that there are all of these rules that you must adhere to and execute in the perfect way. But our message is very different, and that is you are God or source. You are a unique embodiment of that source, and therefore you have your own unique rules, if you call them that, that will guide you to that deep realization of your true nature. And so by allowing yourself to dive into your own heart and ask, what expands within me? This feeling of unconditional love more than anything else, and choosing to act upon that and choosing to let that bring you into a flow state without seeing these successes and failures as anything other than lessons. Expanding your process of diving deeper and deeper into that love, you will find immense growth, and you will find that this energy also ripples out around you to support an awakening that continues to expand, not just for yourself, but for everyone, bringing you to realize that all are one, and you are not actually an individual being at all, but you are part of this great universe orchestrating a collective awakening process. So we do want to answer your questions, and we suppose we could include another message, but we will save that for later. For now, we would ask you, in which ways could we be of service to you by answering any questions you would like to share with us at this time?
I would like to ask of the Pleiadians when, as it is difficult to access the free flow state without a channel or a medium, when is the next Pleiadian activation within our sky here on Gaia and Mother Earth? In what sign, what degree, and when should we be preparing to open up to your wisdom?
You're asking when will there be another sighting or another...
The next activation. We had a Pleiadian activation in Sagittarius. I'm just trying to understand you by understanding the celestial points at which you meet with our Lord.
Well, our...
Pleiadian points could maybe give us an understanding of your wisdom through this channeling.
All right.
Be...
Yes, we understand. So there is a constellation from your perception called Taurus. And in that constellation, there is a star group called the Pleiades. We reside in the stars of Alcyon and Maya in that constellation. So that is the point that you might consider the most Pleiadian in your zodiac. However, we are not just located there. As we've said, everything is here and now. And as multidimensional beings, we don't exist in only a physical place and point, because everything is here and now. We've learned that. And that is why we can travel across time and space. And so our ships can also travel across time and space. And they can appear and disappear in a nanosecond. And this is why some of you have seen ships in your skies that appear as a dot that appears to move, or perhaps as an actual saucer or a triangular shape or something of this nature. It moves all around and then disappears. It is not bound by the physical laws that you understand. And so the next Pleiadian activation is whenever you want it to be. The next Pleiadian activation is when you choose to let go of your belief systems that say it has to be something external and recognize your inner nature is all-inclusive, and you yourself have a connection to the Pleiadian beings if that's what you would choose to activate. Does that answer your question?
I defer to the infinite wisdom of the beings on the Pleiadian point, the galactic center, and all of these great universes beyond which our mind cannot fathom now. But we as mere mortals on this small planet, we do not have the free form and the abilities and the capabilities which you speak of.
But you do. You just have.
We only have a rare glimpse at your power.
If you insist.
As you said, it's a nanosecond. But we, as lesser evolved human beings, must wait for that nanosecond when the veils are open. And
if you insist upon your limitations,
that yes, you can have a Pleiadian activation at any point, but at certain times it would be 1 billion times easier. That is my understanding of your guidance and stewardship of us here on Earth at this particular point in time. In millennia, when various Saras cycles are finished, it will all change.
All right. We thank you. We thank you. Thank you. So, we thank you, yes. Somebody else has a question?
So, as a shamanic practitioner, I often connect shamanically with celestial bodies, and I get some very interesting energies coming from Pleiadians, especially the star Alcyon, I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
Yes.
And I experience this as a divine mother energy, but I've not experienced beings or individual consciousnesses, more a divine, all-encompassing consciousness. When I'm connecting with this, am I connecting with you, or the consciousness of something bigger that manifests in our reality as the star?
You're connecting to our source. So you're going beyond the level of Pleiadian beings as an individual entity, but to the energy that is embodied in that star. And so in a sense, that star is our cosmic source, though it is even beyond us. There is certainly a maternal quality to it, though that star is also linked with your sun, and there's energetic interchanges that happen all the time. So you can consider that as well, that your sun has its own conscious influence and its own consciousness, and then those beings that incarnate into the solar system have their own level of consciousness. So you could play with this idea, and if you would like to, intend to use your connection to that star itself to access the consciousness of the beings orbiting the star. But yes, they are a bit different.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I have a question about ascension as well.
Yes.
Can I ask if there's a space? So there seems to be a very definite fork in the road between people on this planet that are starting to become more aware that they are more than just physical beings, and there seem to be people going in the other direction. And there's seems to me that we're coming to a point where this is going to tear apart the realities, and one is going to move in one direction and one is going to go in the other direction. My question is this what is going to happen, and how can we best bring as many people from the low vibrational state of being into more of a cosmic consciousness?
This is taking place, and you need not worry, though it seems like a big splitting in the moment. What you're actually going to experience is a total split of the timelines, meaning eventually, as you focus your energy personally more on the reality of those choosing a love-based focus, that will become the predominant vibration on your planet. And those who continue to choose a fear-based focus will split off on a separate version of your planet that goes down a different pathway. And we understand for many of you this sounds absurd, but we offer you this idea that reality is constantly splitting into different dimensional timelines. And even within this timeline that you are choosing now, there will be the existence of the fear-based reality for quite some time until that splitting is complete. However, as this continues to take place, you will notice that it's like two train tracks that split, and the further away from each other that they go, the more difficult it is to see the other train track. So the world of those in a fear-based reality will become further and further apart from those choosing a more love-based reality. However, there will be many important steps that have to be taken, for there's much at play now in your world. Some of this involves, we won't speak too much of it today, but there is great sources of misinformation that attempt to take control of the collective attention and keep them acting in ways that keep small groups of people in power. And you have to understand that what negative energy is divisive. It separates things, whereas positive energy unites things. So any sort of idea and definition and rule that creates more separation and says this group of people here, that group of people there, this wrong, this right, and so on, is part of an agenda to keep people from actually coming together. And if you want to see this positive timeline of your planet take place, it's about dissolving these barriers and bringing people together. The future will involve many great experiences. You are seeing some of these steps now, with steps taken towards cleaner, freer energy, universal basic income, and greater resources to support those in poverty. Eventually, the total demilitarization of all nations, followed by the dissolution of all borders, followed by the implementation of a universal currency with a global universal basic income, eventually leading to what you could call intergalactic absorption, in which your world starts to acknowledge the others that exist within this galaxy. It's a gradual process that will take place over several hundreds of years, but you're in the midst of it right now.
I'm wondering what is an efficient method once you acknowledge a fear-based program running in your consciousness or in your behavior, how to deprogram and choose a love-based action or belief?
Well, we'll say that there are generally two ways that you want to be able to work with together, complementary. And here, you're already learning one of them. This path of meditation removes the belief systems from your being if you do it properly. So if you tune into a negative thought, we would then invite you to notice where it sits in your body, and then bring all of your focus away from the mind and into that level of sensation. Observe where there is tight sensation or uncomfortable sensation in your body, while keeping your focus broad and being aware simultaneously of every region, every part, every crevice of your body, from the tips of your toes to the tips of your fingers to the crown of your head and all of the hairs that dangle from it. Allowing yourself to be aware of that sensation, focusing on your breath, and visualizing your breath as light. See this light moving that energy from the place where it is stuck to the far reaches of your body until it dissolves. If you simply stay focused on the level of sensation and allow yourself to pay no attention to the thoughts and the beliefs will themselves fall away. They stick around in your body because you pay very close attention to your thoughts and you start to mistake your thoughts for reality, when thoughts are not reality. Thoughts are the result of the beliefs you've been programmed with and the beliefs that you've generated yourself based upon experiences you've had. When you stop focusing on the thoughts and bring yourself to face the emotions and sensations with a true attitude of non-resistance, meaning being willing to experience them and face them for as long as it takes without fighting them, without making them wrong, then the belief and the emotion itself will integrate. The other pathway to dissolve the negative beliefs, and it is complementary, meaning you need to be proficient at both of these to be the most accelerated at the process of your own personal transformation, is to mentally deconstruct them. So the best way to do this, especially at first, with time you will be able to do this in your mind alone, but write down your thought and then write down the feeling that follows it. Then write down the next thought. Then write down the feeling that follows it until you get to a point where it either exhausts you or you feel like you've uncovered something that feels like a core. It feels like you've got to the center of something. And then look at all of those thoughts and write down the literal opposite of each and every one of those thoughts. Some of them will be simple, like the thought, I am not worthy. You write, I am worthy. There can be more complex examples as well. I don't deserve love at all times. I do deserve love at all times. I do deserve love, and there is no time. Take every part of this negative thought and look to the opposite of it. And then we want you to write down evidence as to why this new positive thought is true. I deserve love. Are there not people who love you? It is impossible to have or experience something that you don't deserve. So this is something that you might want to explore externally with somebody, or even a channeled being can support you in this process. But the idea here is that when you find enough evidence to support a positive belief that counters the negative belief, you will come to eventually see that negative belief is totally absurd. And when you recognize it as absurd, you'll throw it out. So both of these processes are, in a way, destructive and constructive simultaneously. You have to destroy your own resistance. You have to be very much willing to feel the emotions connected with these beliefs and not fight them or push them away. And then you have to actively deconstruct them and create something new from the energy stored within them. Yes. So this process will help all of you. And it's something that you all have to learn how to do, because so much of the experiences that you have in your life are based upon these emotional stories that loop in your mind. And when you learn how to deconstruct them and see from other perspectives, you will find new ways to navigate every circumstance that arises. You will find you have literally unlimited potential. It's to the degree that, as we've said before, you could literally change physical reality. There are masters in many traditions that have had incredible experiences of levitation, of changing their shape, of manifesting flowers and other items out of nowhere. This is what is possible if you learn how to master your own mind. So it starts with the small things, and first of all, you will be able to overcome your issues of anxiety, depression, confusion, not knowing where to go or what to do. And eventually, you will be able to create things that are supernatural, if you'd like. Or you can also insist on your limitation. It's totally up to you.
Current affairs question, if that's okay.
All right.
In the media at the moment, both mainstream and alternative, there's a lot of buzz about disclosure, UFOs, aliens, etc. And there have been some, in inverted commas, objects supposedly shot down very recently. Could you give us some wisdom on this? Is it a distraction? Is it real? Is it what's going on?
It's real. It's a real distraction if you want it to be as well. Though it is true that there is disclosure that will be taking place in this time period, understanding that your government has many secrets that they've kept secret, not entirely for negative purposes, because as well, many people are not ready. You've experienced so many layers of conditioning that UFOs or extraterrestrials are negative in your films and your movies. And you can only transform so much at once. So say if in your 90s or even 5 years ago, the information about extraterrestrial life was revealed to the masses, it would create a sort of massive psychosis where people wouldn't be able to handle the fear that they were experiencing. So it's a gradual process that as people themselves come to find more balance emotionally and more acceptance of what they before feared, that this information can be made available to you. So this disclosure is gradual, and it's not a big explosion of information. It's not making the front cover, so to speak, so that it can sort of subliminally and gradually seep into your consciousness to the point that people would be ready. And you can understand that some of the calamities that you've been experiencing in your world are a way that you can release the fear that you hold. As comfortable as it is, you've been all forced to confront some of your most deeply held fears about safety, health, and freedom. And as you release more and more fear, more and more can be revealed to you. When you stay constricted in fear, you narrow your focus, you close your eyes to seeing everything that is before you.
I've had a few shamanic journeys recently, and I was wondering if it's possible to confirm which direction I should go in my healing journey.
Which direction do you want to take?
I have trauma on both sides of my family, and I'm wondering if there's any value in connecting with my mother's side of the family.
If it calls to you in a deep way, you may want to reach out to them. Even if this is just for you to release some of this trauma and to have a more compassionate relationship with the past and with whatever you might hold from it, it will be a healing experience. Though, to not have expectations, or rather not insist on your expectations that they receive you in an open way or without resistance will be helpful. To allow for whatever is buried within both of you to come to the surface. For when there is healing severed relations, the emotions often have to process. And you're all going through your own process on your own, but that re-meeting can bring up the old wounds, and sometimes you have to feel old and ancient pains again at a greater level of maturity to finally let them heal. Yes, sir, thanks to you as well.
So this world now is quite toxic. The food, the air, the water, the relationships, the phone. What can we do to shield or protect, or how to live in a healthy way in these times?
There's many things to do, and some of you, when you discover all of the things to do or that you can do, start to have a great degree of fear of all of the toxic energy that's out there. And this is the first thing that we would advise against, because once you start to open your eyes to see all that's there, it can be shocking. So don't have, first of all, any resistance to the pain, and don't have any resistance to seeing reality for what it is. Don't even resist your own suffering, because it too is part of the purification process that will free you from these limitations. As you let go of your own resistance and come deeper into your heart, you will be guided to do exactly what resonates with you. So fear is toxic, and fear contracts. Some toxins don't even exist outside of you, but are produced in your body when you can't digest. What holds back your digestion is the fear of the energy you're consuming, or the fear that motivates you to consume excessively or toxic substances. So the most important thing that you can do, first of all, is to raise your vibration in love, and that's where the formula of choosing to act on your passion and choosing to let love guide you into that flow state is the primary thing to do. Then beyond that, you must seek out the cleanest food and water supplies. Many of you don't recognize that the water that comes in from your cities or even smaller townships is loaded with many toxins, and the simple water filters you buy don't really do it justice. So you want to produce some sort of reverse osmosis water, or find out if there's a local spring that you can get cleaner water from, or distill your water. And in these cases, you might want to also supplement minerals to make up for the water being stripped of such things, to eat very organic, wholesome foods is key, and to be mindful of not over-consuming as well, to breathe deeper and bring awareness to your breath will support you through many of the toxins that come in through the air. And in terms of the emotional toxicity of the information, you have to understand that in this current model of your world, they sell you things based on your sense of lack and fear. And so much of the advertising that you're faced with is designed to inspire within you a sense that you fear your own lack, or that you don't have something that you need to obtain. So you have to learn how to pay attention to what this subliminal information feels like when you watch it. You may notice as you see the commercials or scroll through the social media or whatever it is, that there is this underlying sense of deep emptiness that is inspired. It is this emptiness that they seek to bring you to so that you consume. But this path of liberation is to stop trying to fill the emptiness and instead to surrender to it. To trust that even within the infinite sort of emptiness of a black hole, there is a pathway into immense and endless light. So this is why we began by saying, by not having an aversion to the suffering or to the pain. Because when you are immune to this feeling of emptiness, and you instead learn how to raise your own vibration by making choices that raise your vibration into love, you will be very difficult to program. And this is why they call it programming. It programs you to think and act in certain ways. And as you shed the conditioning that you've taken in through this programming, you will be immune to the fear and you will be able to choose love. It will bring you into that flow.
I have a question. How can I help other people love themselves?
By loving yourself and loving them. And of course, you can talk with them and you can hold space for them to feel the energy of your own loving presence, and you can hold space for them to reflect upon their own negative beliefs that they have about themselves. Though the best way to help anyone do anything is leading by example. So by being an example of somebody who has a great deal of love for themselves and makes love-based choices, which is essentially to do what you love, you will guide by example. You will show them what is possible. And that alone will inspire many people to be able to make the same choices. But again, you cannot force them. You cannot make them choose to do what is most loving for them. You can only open yourself to them and let yourself be like a mirror that reflects to them what is alive within them, supporting them to transform their beliefs and accept themselves more. But again, you can only do this when you yourself are filled with that energy of love. Though we'll say as well, to be filled with the energy of love, all you have to do is to empty yourself of the energy of fear, because love is your essential nature. Think of children. Look at how happy they are. Look at how playful they are. It is the negative beliefs and stories that they learn that eventually dim that natural playfulness. And of course, they cry when they get hurt or don't get what they want. But it is negative reactions from the outside to those emotional outbursts that cause those emotions to become something chronic. if you simply learned how to nurture them in the right way, they wouldn't develop those negative beliefs, and that pure state of unconditional love that is your true nature for all of you would not get tainted. So to be filled with love, all you have to do is remove the layers of fear, because love is who you are.
How much of physical illness, health problems, and pain that we're suffering, people are suffering at the moment, is due to a release through us raising our vibration because of the ascension of the planets and people? I have some physical issues at the moment, and I very strongly feel that it's a cleansing and purification and release. So I've not been to the doctor. Have I made the right decision?
What you call ascension symptoms is sort of a misnomer, because what actually happens when you have an ascension symptom is that you raise your frequency, and that shines light on the negative beliefs or emotions that before you weren't aware of. And by flooding yourself with this light, it does start to push those beliefs out. But is that caused by the influx of light, or is that caused by the presence of the negative accumulated energy? It's really caused by the latter. So you have to guide yourself through that process of accelerating the emotional detox and the physical detox. Do you need a doctor? Well, you should seek out some sort of support, not necessarily a medical doctor, though the idea here is that you can only see so much of yourself without a mirror, and these practitioners that can diagnose you through whatever means they are trained in will have some way of reflecting to you ways of accelerating this detox process. So, we want to conclude as well with a brief message about your energy anatomy. You are a soul that inhabits a body, not a body that has a soul. And this energy anatomy, known as the chakras, are the points that tie together your physical body with this subtle anatomy of your spiritual body. There are 7 chakras, but these 7 chakras can also be reduced to 3 main areas where psychic energy is stored in the body. So, at the level of your belly, there is the lower center. In some traditions, these are called kantians. But this lower psychic energy center is all about your sense of self and your grounding in physical reality. It regulates your digestion and your body's automatic processes. It regulates your sexual function as well, and it ties all of this together. Now note, all of these psychic centers have the same neurons that are present in your brain, and through these neurons they are interconnected. This second main psychic center is at level of the heart, and it ties together the heart and the lungs, many other organs in this part of your body. This is the emotional and relational center that has everything to do with how you relate to others and open yourself to the realm of humans and nature. The third center is in your head, and this is your psychic center that has to do with your thoughts and visions and your imagination. It relates to your brain and all of the subtle glands in there. And this has to do with the perspective that you are imagining, the stories that you are casting out into reality. This first center ties together what you can, in your gut, ties together the first 3 chakras. Your root center is a red center at the base of your spine that connects you with the earth and with your survival nature. This center stores great energy of fear. It develops in the very early years of your life, and it is activated by touch. The touch that you receive as an infant helps this center to develop. And because you have become very disconnected and you've come to bring a lot less closeness in early years of life and suppress many emotions, this root center often doesn't regulate, and it causes a lack of flow through the areas connected with the root, especially the colon and even the sexual organs and the skin itself. So to work with the root center, you have to learn how to sink deep into your body and sink deep into your physical connection with others. You have to undo much trauma that is unconscious, that keeps you in a loop of fear, wondering if you are safe or not. And much of this is due to emotional stories of when you were rejected for emoting as a child. This causes energy at the root to suppress and for you to control and hold back emotion. You could say that much of this has to do with the next 2 chakras as well, though this orange center at your navel point connects as well with your sexual organs and your emotions. It's more of a feeling nature than emotional nature. The difference is subtle, but it is important. And this center has everything to do with feeling. It is your gut level feeling that guides you to whether you are drawn to another person or not, to whether you like this food or not, to whether you like this smell or not. At the level of your gut, you have a deep knowing that many of you have come to distrust, many of you have come to overcompensate for or stuff down your feelings, and thus this is what creates excessive consumption that leads to an inflation in your body. When this center is shut down, you cannot feel, you cannot cry, you cannot emote, and you will probably have very little money. So, or if you do, you will not be able to release it with easy flow. So opening the center is learning how to connect with your core level feelings and emotions and allowing yourself to be guided by your gut. This third center at your solar plexus is the center of identity and self. It is the fire center. It is the center that allows you to know who you are and who you are not. And this center is disrupted by parents or authority or society trying to shape you. It's disrupted by experiences of bullying. It's disrupted by the conditioning that you receive that tells you to become a certain type of person and this is what success is. Those of you who free this center learn how to create a new identity for yourself, but this identity becomes very fluid when you really attune the center to higher spiritual levels of activation, knowing that this identity is but a mask for the soul. So people who go far down a path of total renunciation can also experience that this center becomes too loose and too flimsy. So So it is that balance of knowing that your identity is but a hollow shell, but a very important shell to encase the undifferentiated beauty and infinite nature of the soul. So this center regulates your digestion, and without feeling firm in yourself and powerful as the being you are, the digestion will fail, or it will become very disrupted by strong identification that I am this, they are that, we are so different. It is again a fluid, a hollow sense of identity that says, I am this way, but I know that I am the spirit and they are the spirit. These differences don't become strong borders and ways of separating people, but you are able to see your distinction so that you can come together in greater unity. It is diversity that leads to a healthy, functioning biome of many different sorts of people coming together as one. The heart level is all about relation and emotion, and it is the center of love. It is the center of compassion and healing energy. As you are able to express healthy emotions and receive and give love within your family structures, this center develops in a healthy way. But if love is held back, this center can become shut down, or also if this love is given with too much condition and too much attachment, you can develop a block in receiving. So the love of the heart is unconditional love. And that's why this is the center of your being that is connected with the one source more than most centers in your being. It is the clear antenna to bring in the source's vibration. So unconditional love means loving with bonding, but without attachment to how the others respond to you. And in this level of love, you are able to give freely, knowing that all of the energy that you share comes back to you, perhaps not from the same source, but in this universe, everything you put out comes back. And so with that true level of non-attachment, your heart will always remain open to continue to attract more expressions of the love that you put out in whatever direction you do. So learning how to breathe deeply and give freely and receive as much as you give is the healing and integration of this center. It is the center of air, so the breath, which regulates the heart, is key into the center and key into how you can express. The throat is the center of vibration and sound, and it is how all of this energy is expressed outward into manifestation. This is both the center of purification and manifestation. These two functions come together. In all that you speak is purifying your being, but it is also a vibration that is rippling out and attracting that which you say. So you need to use the center in order to emote and to express what you feel, and those who cannot express their feelings will experience a deep blockage in this place. Those who know how to allow themselves to channel the energy that they feel and let it move out from the throat will experience that the center allows them to release any energy they're holding on to, while simultaneously the other function is that now that you've released that energy, you get to call in and speak into reality that which you wish to create. You cannot bring something about without speaking about it, and that is why it is helpful for you to come together and share your desires and share your intentions and let that vibration echo and resonate so that you can continue to build creatively upon it. This center has much higher levels of function as well, as it is a very psychic center. And once you master these two aspects of the throat, of purification and creation, you will find that there are hidden mystical secrets here. The third eye center is the center of vision and understanding. It is where the wisdom is awakened within you. And all of the wisdom of the entire universe exists within every soul. You can read it in books and you can understand it from masters, but it is your own energy. And when the center is awakened, you will open your inner eye to the truth that is infinitely and always within you. So you open the center by having a clear focus and by learning how to trust in your own imagination. The imagination is not just something that conjures and makes things up, but it is a psychic sense. It is a higher sense that can interpret reality around you just as much as you interpret reality through sound, taste, touch, and smell. You can interpret reality by the images and ideas that dawn from within you if you learn how to break through the filters that can distort that which lives within you. And so this is why the focus becomes very clear at the center. And to deepen into clear meditation with a single pointed focus allows the center to expand as much as processes of visualization and even shamanic experience support the center to expand. The balance of both allows for the right hemisphere of the brain and the left hemisphere of the brain to unite, which culminates in the true awakening of the third eye. The crown center is the place that is infinitely connected to the source, where energy from that cosmic source pours down through your being and also radiates out through your being. This center is open through the total balance of all other centers and also through that clear meditation. It is white light, but that light contains all of the other centers. And all of the other colors. And so it is the vibration of all of the different colors of the chakra that is alive in this crown center. And by going beyond thought and concept into pure consciousness, the center opens. You will be continuing to experience and explore that in this time. It is impossible to completely put into words what the essence of this center is, because it is beyond concepts entirely. But it will show and illuminate to you who you really are. And alive in all of these chakras are what, in the terms that you may study if you go deeper into this yoga, are called samskaras, and what we have been talking about as belief systems. They are patterns of thought and behavior that become living energy fields within you that loop and create sensation and impulse. When you learn to differentiate between these and the true aliveness of your spirit that manifests as the energy in your heart guiding you, you will be able to break through from the grip of samskaras, or belief systems. Until then, they have a hold on you. And all of these practices are guiding you to gradually break free from what is habitual and what is comfortable and what is known. You might find that these beliefs are addictive because they are the root of all addictive. Your habits are addictive. You live in eternal cycles that keep you ensnared. So this path is about breaking these cycles and creating new and healthier cycles. And in order to do that, you have to recognize that just because it is normal, as in you've done it before and you're used to doing it, and just because it is comfortable doesn't mean it is healthy and right. You have to adjust to being comfortable with the uncomfortable choice to break the pattern. And as you do that, you will gain more and more intuitive wisdom, which is again none other than that love-based energy present in your heart. And when there is love present in a pathway, that is your intuition. Your intuition is not separate from love. It is actually the same as love. So you can unite love and intuition and understand whenever you're experiencing love, your intuition is guiding you. And that love or intuition will guide you beyond these habitual patterns. So learn how to differentiate between the little love that is simply just pleasure and the big love that is the expansive energy. And it will make all of the difference for you. So we thank you for allowing us to share this information with you. We thank you for being present and patient to receive and for integrating this in your own being, because as you do, the very nature of your being will change, and as you change, the entire world around you changes. For everything is made of vibration, and your vibration impacts the vibration of the very physical reality you walk upon and inhabit. You are not separate from it. And that is why we say it is a gift that you come to receive this, because by us doing this together today, reality is different than it was before. We thank you once again, and we wish you a fantastic rest of your day then. All right. Thank you. Thanks for being here, everybody. How was that?